Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we've got Vintage, the finals of the Scholars Monthly Vintage event. And we've got Joe on Oath versus John on Paradoxical Outcome Storm. And Joe is taking a mulligan here to start out. And it looks like John has Ancestral at the front of his hand. As long as he's got some blue mana, that is almost certainly a keeper there. Drawing 3 cards for the low cost of 1 blue, just about the best thing you can be doing when you're sitting down and playing Magic. It is a card game after all, and cards are a good thing. Why not have 3 more of them? We'll see if he'll be able to resolve it against Joe, who will have his own Force of Wills and Mental Missteps to potentially fight over. And we see there he does actually have a misstep along with Demonic Tutor. And he's going to go ahead and keep it and scry to the bottom. Underground Sea opens for Joe. And John is going to just lead right out with that Ancestral. Misstep coming over the top for Joe, shutting it down. And he's actually paying the blue. John's going to let that resolve. May not have a choice otherwise. And dual lands team up to cast Oath of Druids. Of note that it is not Forbidden Orchard, so Tropical Island, Underground Sea, and not going to be any creatures on John's sides of the board. So he is going to need to find a Forbidden Orchard. Luckily, Demonic Tutor can do exactly that. Not exactly the best use of a Demonic Tutor, but it will get the ball rolling. And Twister here. John Mystical Tutoring for Time Twister. This could be a very all-in play. Lion's Eye Diamond, Mana Crypt. Ooh, this is going to be all in. We'll see if John cracks that Lion's Eye Diamond in response to his own Twister. That will leave him with no cards in hand. Joe with not a ton of resources left. May not feel that bad about the draw 7. So playing Time Twister. And looks like he's just passing priority. Whoa, good read there. So Time Twister shut down with Mindbreak Trap, main deck from Joe. Looks like another example of blue decks really trying to tune themselves to beat other blue decks. Mindbreak Trap so very good when you're talking about decks like John's Storm list here, or the Dark Petition Storm. Really, any type of fast combo deck almost certainly going to trigger that Mindbreak Trap. And Demonic Tutor fetching up Forbidden Orchard. On the other side, Mana Crypt starting to chip away. 1.5 damage per turn on average. Of course, that is average and does require a bunch of turns to average out. In this game, not looking like it's going to go that many turns. Joe just about ready to oath up a Gristlebrand. John contemplating this Ponder, seeing Force of Will. A little late for that at this stage of the game. He really needs a way to move forward and try and find his own way of winning. Preordain happening. Force in hand. Really going to need a way to win, or something like a Grafdigger's Cage, which he's not going to have main deck. Sideboard, that's definitely an option. And here we go, lots of cards flying into the graveyard here. Huge chunk of Joe's deck. Actually getting a little uncomfortable. There's Gristlebrand. Looks like he still has an activation for Gristlebrand left available in his deck. Always disappointing when you can't even draw 7 with him because you only have 7 or less cards left in your library. See what he has for, cards like Memory's Journey. Past Oath, of course, ran. Gaia's Blessing, that was the original way of recycling your graveyard to avoid decking yourself. Memory's Journey came into fashion a bit after that, being able to flash it back or cast it from hand, and it's also a blue card. It was an intermediary card along the way that costs 1 and a green. Frozen Reclamation, I believe it was. Not really that important in the grand scheme of things. We have certainly continued to see a little bit of power creep in that fairly innocuous role player. Just making sure that you don't die to your own cards. Don't begrudge anybody that type of printing. But Joe's graveyard really loaded up. He has got his Gristlebrand in play. The worst case scenario, that's going to be 2 or 3 swings, depending on how Mana Crypt cooperates. Oh, and Chain of Vapor. Well then. And we've got a Flashback Memories Journey. Gonna have to get a real copy of that to Joe. I had no idea he was proxying that. Of course I have the real ones. If you're ever looking for any vintage or legacy cards, I almost certainly have them. A lot of trading. Hit me up via PM if you're out there listening and missing stuff like Memories Journey or Dual Lands or Power. Whatever it is you're looking for, I've got it. Certainly helps keep the stream looking nice as well. Rather have the real card. Actually created a lot of proxies for exactly that purpose. And pulling up the Gatherer exact Oracle text, image of the card for John. And Yawgmoth's Will almost certainly going to be part of the equation. Probably about as good as you can get. Time Walk, also possible. Demonic Tutor, also a good card given the amount of mana that Joe has. Absolutely fine. Really going to be looking to potentially just take some extra turns here with Gristlebrand. Time Walk, one of the better ones. He can assemble Vault Key if he's running that. All right, so Memory's Journey has made it. Looks like he didn't actually get the Yawgwill, the last card in his deck. And going to be forcing to save the Gristlebrand. Pitching Sphinx of the Steelwind. Memory's Journey. Go ahead and get exiled here. Going through his graveyard, taking a look at possible lines here. Yawgwill still in the graveyard. Oh, it looks like I misinterpreted the game state. That was actually in response to Memory's Journey then? Looks like Time Walk, Yawgwill, and Force of Will. And Show and Tell. All right. Changing up a little bit there, and there's 4 cards left in the library after this resolves. So it looks like he actually did not need to reload in order to draw 7. Easy to misinterpret there, just in part because of how unintuitive that is. I would have thought that getting the good cards back into the deck would be preferable before drawing 7 with Gristlebrand, giving you the highest probability of drawing the goods, so to speak. All right, let's see where this goes. We're going to have 4 cards in the library. I believe the discussion that might be happening right now, there was a question about whether or not you can look at the bottom card of your library while you are shuffling. That is something that happens pretty often by accident. But in this instance, because there's only 1 card left in the library, there's a potential issue there. You should, in theory, be able to derive that. But if you really want to know what the bottom card is, you can't just look at your library while you're shuffling. That was the judge ruling. Now, if you're searching your library, of course you can look at it for a card. I mean, almost every time that you're shuffling your library, you are actually looking at it. For cards like Fetch Lands or Demonic Tutor, anytime you're searching your library, no problem there. But in the few instances where you're shuffling your library independent of a tutor effect, wouldn't be able to look. So, for example, if you had Memory's Journey and your opponent was using Jace the Mind Sculptor to put cards on the bottom of your library, you could shuffle your library with Memory's Journey in order to kind of unlock yourself from their fate sealing. But what you wouldn't be able to do is take a look at the bottom of your library and try to figure out what your opponent might be soft to. So, for example, if they had put a lightning bolt on the bottom, and you somehow derive from that a different line of play that you might otherwise take, you're like, oh well, if you put lightning bolt on the bottom, then I think that I want to be drawing more burn because he's not going to be able to defend himself because he doesn't have the counters or something along those lines. Perhaps a little bit convoluted on that example. But regardless, here we go. 4 cards in the library. Hopefully I made my point clear there on the library being a private zone or hidden zone and not being able to take a look. Here we go. 4 cards. Drawing, and there's the Yogg-Will right off the top. Land. Getting in there for 7. And Yawgmoth's Will not answered. So here come all of the mana artifacts. Gonna be able to assemble Vault Key and just take the remaining 3 turns that he has left with just 3 cards left in his library. Sensei's top as well. All of the artifacts. Paradoxical outcome in John's hand, leaving him hellbent or without plays, I should say. Only 3 mana up. And just gonna go ahead and take all of the turns from there. So that'll get Joe the check mark here in the finals, moving on to game number 2. Still a bit of time left on the clock here. These decks generally not going to have a hard time finishing up, even if you go to time. Both of them very capable of winning in that 5-turn window. Force of Will, so important here for both players, being able to stop the most broken openings. Looks like Joe may have been grabbing some Abrupt Decays. Very aware that Grafdigger's Cage can be a big problem. Abrupt Decay, probably the best answer to that they've printed. Can't be countered. Very difficult to attack. In Misdirection, not really much play. Croson Grip, another card in that vein, but really been obsoleted for most people with the printing of Abrupt Decay. But they do serve very similar roles. But Joe's list, no stranger to black mana, having a tutor suite. And I'm sure occasionally hard-casting Gristlebrand as well. That is a thing that you can do, even though that is not plan A or even really B or C. You can certainly hard-cast him. He is only 8 mana, and you are playing in a format where Black Lotus is legal, so those type of things can actually happen fairly early in a game on occasion. See what John's able to do here. Fire back. If he can tie it up 1-1 and force a game 3, or if Oath is just going to go ahead, take this down. It looks like they just reset our timer on us at about 28 minutes. Regardless, it is the finals, so this would not actually be called at turns. And while they are getting their hands ready here, going to have a mulligan phase, some important decisions to be made about how to sideboard, what hands are going to be good enough. Go ahead and thank Scholars, of course, for hosting another excellent vintage event. Not in the finals of this one. You guys are watching right now, having taken a loss to, I believe, both Joe and definitely lost to John. Check out the other videos to see who took me down. On pile shuffling here. Opening hands, very important for these matchups. Going to need the right mix of aggression and defense. Of course, being on the play, really difficult to throw away some of those super aggressive hands. Sometimes you just have to keep it and hope you can't be stopped. And let's see here. See a Paradoxical outcome. I see some white bordered cards, which very well may be Moxes, so looks like John's going to be good to go. And on the other side there, Joe says no thanks. I think he actually had a robot in his hand there, an Oath target. Not really ideal. Basically on 6 already. Show and Tell does address that a little bit. But without the Show and Tell already, not really great. And there's an Oath and an Abrupt Decay as well, so some early game plays that can be made here. Likely going to be good enough. And a Time Vault as well. Possibility to assemble infinite turns. He's halfway there already, and John leads out with a defense grid. And interestingly enough, Joe really doesn't have any permission in his hand. We'll see who this helps or hurts more. Seeing Mox Sapphire and a land on top. Usually preordained at this stage of the game is going to be looking to draw out of some gas. He's actually going to keep them both on top, indicating perhaps he already has that gas in his hand. And Mox Pearl, land, and an Oath. So the search is on. At this point, Joe is going to need to find a Forbidden Orchard. John is not going to help him out with putting creatures on the board. Sapphire coming down. Lotus coming down. a ton of mana available here very quickly. And 4 mana. Does he decide to pick up the defense grid? No, he doesn't. He passes on a card and leaves the defense grid on board. So this whole turn is going to be shielded. 4 more. We have already achieved a lethal storm count. And another PO. Now, I don't know if I saw a Vamp Tutor in there. If there was a Vamp, it may have just been best to just go ahead and get that Tendrils right away. See where this goes. Have any more card drawing? Fields are completely down here. Joe unable to interact. Even if he had a fistful of counters at this point, it wouldn't matter because he is trapped behind that, or safe behind that defense grid. And another PO. And there's the Tendrils. So John rapidly taking that one down. Joe had a reasonable opener, but no match for both defense grid and a combo kill. Even if Joe had the counter magic, would not have really mattered there. Had to waste it on the defense grid. Joe going back into the sideboard. Now that he knows defense grid is there, that may adjust his plan, though he did bring in Abrupt Decay, which is an excellent answer to defense grid. Long day of Magic here, coming to an end for these guys, all coming down to this one game. Both players, one game apiece, each deck really demonstrating why they're so powerful. Who's going to be imposing their will in this game 3? I believe they played earlier in the event and came up with a draw on citing some misplays down the stretch with not being able to close out the game. Speaking with Joe, he was pretty psyched to be able to get out of there with a draw. Looked like he was certainly dead. Did acknowledge that with some different choices, John would have been able to take him out. So now that they're in the finals, we're going to see if John can find a way to reclaim that match, or if Joe is going to be able to get out of here, back a Gristlebrand, or perhaps Time Vault Key. Autofocus issue there. Apologize for anyone distracted by that. Have a workaround for that on most of our videos. It didn't function here, but here we've got Joe with a fistful of cards that look like they were from a game called Magic. I couldn't quite be sure. There was quite a mix. Force of Will, Abrupt Decay. Didn't look like he really had much in the way of mana, and really didn't seem to do anything. That's an easy mull. Never really mind those. No landers or hands that are just garbage. Like, you're gonna get them. No reason to be upset or salty about it. Just accept the fact that it's gonna happen. Go ahead and mulligan those. Where you want to be careful is those hands that look right on the edge. Like, that's actually the dangerous ones. That's going to really put you to the test in terms of what to keep and what to throw back. A very black heavy hand here for Joe. Looks like a Yogg-Will, a Null Rod. Oh, that's actually just a Mox Ruby. It looked like perhaps another black card, but that's just how he's proxied his Ruby. And actually leading out with Null Rod off of a Ruby. Null Rod used to be very, very popular back in the day at the heyday of Mindslaver, Goblin Welders running around. We've come a long way since then. Melrod's still a very powerful card, particularly good against this PO deck because it has so many artifacts. John deciding to force a will that Null Rod. And a ton of fast mana here into Grafdigger's Cage. And it looks like he really didn't have much of a choice not making his land drop into that strip mine. If he actually had a land to play or if he's just holding on to it. No blue mana yet, perhaps? All right, so, and a little bit of a mystery right now. We'll see over the next few turns, most likely. Now, Yogwill, Abrupt Decay, and a Flusterstorm for Joe. And there's some colored mana. Storm count is 1. Going to go ahead and fire off a PO, and this is the decision time right now. So he's going to have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. That's not going to be something that Flusterstorm is going to stop here. He can play another card. Oh, and unless I miscounted. Did I miscount that? Let me know in the comments if I miscounted that. It looked to me like John could have paid the 3 floating mana. Just Mox Opal, Flusterstorm. Paradoxical outcome. Here comes another one. This time, see if he's targeting all 5. Likely the right play. Get the extra card. And to Abrupt Decay the Grafdigger's Cage, so that was targeted by the Paradoxical outcome. Now I'm going to be drawing 4 cards, finds a Sapphire. That is an important part of the puzzle here as well. Much blue mana. The deck is very blue mana hungry. Defense grid coming down. So it's pretty clear, at least from here, that Joe not going to have any type of counter magic left over, letting Paradoxical outcome resolve. Lotus piles on here. 7 mana still available. Land drop for turn. That can be played into Strip Mine without much worry at this point. Six mana. Tendrils with some mana floating. That's going to do it. Taken down Joe with a Tendrils. Protected by Defense Grid. Congratulations to John for taking down the Scholars Vintage. That's all for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please help grow the channel by subscribing. You'll be notified when we upload new videos like Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic with commentary, or Untapped, our raw tournament gameplay. Thanks for watching.